You clicked Create App from Excel, felt clever, and congratulations, migrated your chaos at scale. Excel isn't a database, it's a calculator with delusions of grandeur. Dataverse enforces identity types and relationships, and it will punish spreadsheet habits with integrity errors. The truth, everyone gets this wrong. In the next minutes, I'll tear down the 5 failure patterns that quietly destroy your power apps, starting with the one that breaks everything: no primary keys. Then I'll rebuild your model: keys, relationships, types, so imports don't implode, upserts behave, and lookups actually link. You'll leave with a minimal remediation path that scales without surprises. Failure pattern 1, no primary keys. Okay, so basically rows without unique identities are strangers at a reunion. Everyone smiles, nobody knows who's who, and bad mergers marry the wrong cousins. In Excel, you get away with pretending product name is unique. In Dataverse, pretending gets you duplicate records, overwritten fields, and upserts that behave like a blender. Why this matters: without primary keys, Dataverse can't guarantee row-level integrity. It can't tell whether an incoming row should insert or update. Your merge becomes roulette. The cost? Corrupted history, phantom duplicates, and automations firing on the wrong records. The aha moment you'll get today. Identity is not a column, it's a contract. The simple version is: use surrogate keys for truth, alternate keys for convenience. Surrogate key, a guide that never changes and means nothing to humans. Alternate key, a human-friendly uniqueness rule like supplier name plus country or product code. If marketing swears it's unique, spoiler alert, they'll try to reuse it next quarter. Here's what most people miss: Excel's implicit uniqueness is fake. Hidden spaces, inconsistent case, and copy-paste debris mean Acme tools, and Acme tools look the same to you, different to the engine. In other words, your identity column is lying. What to model in Dataverse? Primary column, a surrogate guide. Don't argue. It's stable under renames, mergers, rebrands, and we bought a competitor and kept both lines. Alternate keys. Define the actual business uniqueness constraints your imports will use. Product code? Fine. Product name plus category. Only if you accept a future failure when someone recycles drill in a new category variant. Natural versus surrogate debate. This isn't a philosophy class. Natural keys drift, surrogates don't. How to fix before your next import. Add a key column in Excel now. If you lack a reliable code, generate a guide per row. Yes, in Excel. There are Power Query functions, use them. In Dataverse, keep the system GUID as primary. Then define alternate keys on the human fields you'll map from Excel. Supplier name, location name, category name, so data flows can resolve lookups by something other than vibes. Pre-dedupe in Power Query. Trim, case normalize, and collapse white space on your would-be keys. Reject ambiguous duplicates instead of hoping imports pick the right one. Hope is not a data strategy. In data flows, choose append for first loads. Use upsert only when your alternate keys are active and clean. Upsert without keys is how you overwrite last week's truth with this week's typo. Here's the weird part. The primary column in Dataverse, the so-called name column, confuses people. It's a display field, not your identity. You can rename it to product name for sanity, but it's not the key. The actual identity is the hidden guide. Treat the display field like a label on a box. The barcode is the GUID. A quick micro story. A team used product name as their merge key because we're small, it's fine. Then they launched Widget Pro, replacing widget. They bulk changed names. Every historical order now pointed at the new product in reports. And finance thought revenue tripled. It hadn't. They had just erased their past with a find and replace. Keys would have prevented that. Practical mapping example: products, suppliers, locations. In Excel, add supplier key and location key by mapping names to stable codes. In Dataverse, create supplier table with a surrogate guide, alternate key on supplier name. Same for location on location name. In your product's data flow, map supplier name from the source to the supplier alternate key. Now, when Acme Tools arrives, Dataverse resolves it to the correct supplier row. If someone types Acme Tools, the alternate key normalization either matches or your validation rejects it. Both outcomes are better than silently creating Acme V2. Append versus upsert, clarified. Append says always insert, great for first loads. Upsert says insert or update based on keys. Only safe when your alternate keys are enforced and your source is deduplicated. If you upsert on product name and there are 2 drill rows with slight differences, Dataverse doesn't know which one is canonical. You taught it ambiguity. Everything clicked when I realized identity precedes data. Without a non-negotiable ID, your rows are anecdotes, not records. Establish surrogate guides for permanence, alternate keys for usability, and enforce them before a single row crosses the border. Then, and only then, do types and relationships stand a chance. Failure pattern 2. Mixed data types. With identities sorted, your types still betray you. Excel lets a single column host a family reunion. Numbers, text, dates, and whatever someone pasted from Outlook sitting together like it's normal. Dataverse is not that tolerant roommate. It enforces types, and it will throw your stuff out the window the second you violate the lease. Why this matters? Type confusion corrupts logic quietly. Calculations round wrong, comparisons fail, lookups miss, and your yes-no turns into yes-no, maybe blank, which is not a Boolean. It's a cry for help. The cost is subtle. Flaky formulas, inconsistent views, and automations that branch on string values that look true but aren't. The truth, formatting is not typing. Excel formatting is makeup. Dataverse types are bone structure. You can highlight 1034.50 with a currency format all day. If it's stored as text, Dataverse reads string, not money, and then your roll-ups, aggregations, and formula columns politely refuse to cooperate. What to model in Dataverse? The simple version, text for text, not text that looks like a number. Whole number for counts you never fraction. Stock quantity is an integer. Stop feeding it. 12. Decimal for measured values where precision matters, weights, dimensions. Choose the scale, live with it. Currency for monetary amounts. It stores value plus currency and respects rounding rules. Use it or suffer. Date only for dates without time. Date time for events with time zones. If you don't care about time, don't store it. Choice when the set is finite and governed. You get consistency, labels, and easy filtering. Look up when the value comes from another table. If it has metadata, it's a table, not a choice. Boolean for binary facts. Yes, no, not yes-ish. Here's what most people miss. Excel's blank is not one thing. You'll see empty string, null, and a space character that rode in on a copy-paste Safari. To you, they're all empty. To the engine, they're three distinct states. That's how required columns slip through and how active becomes active and ruins your choice mapping. How to fix this before you import. Pre-validate in Power Query. Coerce types explicitly. Don't hope the wizard guesses. Use text, trim text upper, and clean invisible characters with text. Select or by replacing chars 60 and friends. Normalize case for keys and choices. Collapse double spaces to single. Reject ambiguous rows. If a date column contains Q1 FY25, that's not a date, that's a human note. Split it or drop it. You are not obliged to import garbage. Normalize booleans. Map yes, no, y, n1, true, false to true, false once. Then lock it. No, maybe. For currency, split the amount and the currency code if it's mixed. Load to a currency column with a known transaction currency. Don't play mix and match with symbols embedded in strings. Handle dates sanely. If time zones matter, convert to UTC before import. If they don't, use date only. Storing midnight local as UTC is how due on the 1st becomes due on the 31st for your colleagues elsewhere. For numbers trapped as text, use value. From text with culture settings or Power Query's locale-aware conversion. Then set precision, whole number, decimal, or currency. Decide. Ambiguity is the bug. Example you'll thank me for. Inventory. Value as a formula column. Stock quantity times unit price. Unit price is currency. Formula columns operate in decimal. Cast unit price to decimal in the formula. Now, rounding is controlled, not accidental. Compare that to leaving unit price as text because it displays fine. Your formula will refuse or worse, coerce unpredictably. Choice versus lookup with types in mind. Category with 5 stable values. Choice. Supplier with address, rating, and compliance status. Look up to suppliers. If you start with text Acme, you'll spend eternity cleaning Acme, Acme Inc., and Acme Inc. Convert it to a lookup now and let Dataverse enforce 1 row per supplier, period. Microstory. A team stored order date as text because the export looked like a date. Then they sorted descending and wondered why 9:30 came before 10:01. Lexicographic sort. They built KPIs on it. The quarter ended early in reports and sales missed their bonus on paper. One type change and their timeline snapped back to reality. Everything clicked when I realized types are contracts for meaning. Dataverse can optimize, secure, and calculate only when you declare what the data is, not how it looks. Declare text, number, decimal, currency, date only, choice, lookup, boolean with intent, coerce upstream, and reject the misfits. Then your formulas behave, your lookups resolve, and your app stops gaslighting you. Failure pattern 3. VLOOKUP as joins. Now we get to the training wheels. VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, index match. Cute in a spreadsheet, dangerous in a data platform. In Excel, you emulate relationships by copying values across tables. In Dataverse, you define relationships so values never need to be copied in the first place. The truth? Your lookups are text duplication with extra steps. Why this matters? Spreadsheets hide referential drift. Your supplier name repeats in every product row, so when Acme Tools becomes Acme Tools Looted, you miss one sheet, one tab, one row, and suddenly your filters split a single supplier into 2 ghosts. Dataverse requires joins that carry identity, not fragile labels, so one rename doesn't shatter 100 dependent rows. Here's what most people miss. A lookup column in Dataverse stores a reference to the parent row's ID plus the display name for convenience. That ID is the relationship. Change the parent's display name and every child still points to the same record. No mass update, no prayer circle. VLOOKUP stores text, lookups store truth. Okay, so basically if a column repeats supplier name, Across thousands of product rows, that's not a column. That's a relationship screaming to become a lookup. Choice versus lookup is simple. If the list is finite and has no metadata, use a choice. If it has properties, history, rules, or compliance flags, it's a table, therefore a lookup. Suppliers, locations, categories with descriptions and hierarchies, lookups. Status with 5 governed values, choice. How to model it right. Create dimension tables, supplier, location, category. Each gets a surrogate guide primary key and an alternate key on the human label you'll use during import. Supplier name, location name, category code. In product, replace text columns with lookup columns to those tables. Do not store Acme tools as text. Store a reference to supplier. Define the relationship, cardinality. Products, many-to-one suppliers. Products, many-to-one locations. Products, many-to-one categories. If you genuinely need many-to-many, against products sold by multiple suppliers, model an intersect table product supplier with 2 lookups. Don't fake it with comma-separated text, ever. How to fix the mess you already have. Preload the parents. Import supplier, location, category first, with alternate keys active. Verify no duplicates, trim, uppercase, and normalize punctuation in Power Query. Reject collisions instead of inventing Acme 2. In your product data flow, map text to lookups by keys. In the column mapping, choose supplier, lookup. Map using supplier name, alternate key. Same for location and category. Now a string becomes a reference, not a duplicated label. After import, kill the obsolete text columns. Leave no runway for future drift. The counterintuitive part is this. VLOOKUP felt safer because you could see the text. Lookups look abstract, but lookups are how you get integrity features for free. Cascade behavior, uniqueness checks, roll-ups, and security that can filter by parent. You can't roll up on text, you can roll up on relationships. Practical example, you built a report, inventory value by supplier. In Excel, that means a pivot relying on consistent text. One stray Acme tools breaks aggregation. In Dataverse, the roll-up counts by supplier ID. 10 spellings still resolve to one supplier because the relationship does the heavy lifting. You change supplier's display name once. The app, the views, and Power BI all show the new label without touching product rows. Microstory. A team chained 5 VLOOKUPs across tabs to pull category, subcategory, supplier rating, and region into a flat product master. It worked until someone resorted a tab and pasted new rows with leading spaces. Overnight, 8% of products lost their supplier. Orders still processed, analytics quietly lied. They switched to lookups, enforced required relationships, and the missing supplier error surfaced at import, where it belongs. Everything clicked when I realized VLOOKUP copies values. Relationships bind identities. If it has metadata, give it a table. If it repeats, give it a lookup. Define alternate keys, so imports resolve text once, then let Dataverse carry the join forever. Failure pattern 4, multipurpose columns. Here's where your spreadsheet instincts go full performance art. One column doing 3 jobs like a clown juggling chainsaws. Status that holds active, inactive, on hold, discontinued, and chef's kiss, blank. Location that sometimes means a warehouse, sometimes an address, sometimes left behind the receptionist's desk. Excel tolerates this because it doesn't care. Dataverse cares. It enforces semantics, and overloaded fields are how you sabotage validation, reporting, and automation in one elegant move. Why this matters? Automation can't branch on mush. You can't build a rule that says, if status is active, then reorder, when status also contains on hold for audit because someone decided notes belong in the same cell. Reporting can't group on a field that mixes states with commentary. And data quality rules collapse when a single column is asked to represent state, reference, and narrative all at once. The truth? It worked in my pivot is not proof of model quality. Pivots are magic tricks. They can summarize nonsense without complaining. Apps are not magicians. They need structure. What to model instead? Status is a choice. Governed values, active, inactive, on hold, discontinued. Labels are human, stored values are clean. You get validation filtering and no accidental act. Location is a lookup to a location table. If it has metadata, country, address, capacity, time zone, it's a table. You want a single row per warehouse, not 47 spellings of warehouse A. Notes are notes. Use a dedicated multi-line text or the built-in notes timeline. Commentary is separate from state. That way, your audit trail doesn't contaminate your logic. Here's what most people miss. A catch-all column looks efficient but creates silent divergence. The moment someone types active in awaiting QA, you've added a brand new undocumented status that your flows and dashboards will misinterpret. Choice fields stop that at the door. You either add a new option deliberately or the import fails loudly. Failure at import beats failure in production. How to fix the mess you already have? Split columns with a mapping table. In Power Query, create a status map that converts freeform status text to a governed set. Active, ACT, in service, active. Disabled, inactive, retired, inactive, on hold, pending QA, on hold. Store the original status in a new column called status raw for forensic nostalgia. Load the mapped value into a choice column. Extract references from text. For location, strip commentary into a notes column and keep only the location name or code in a clean location name column. Preload the location table with distinct names, define an alternate key on name, then convert the location column in products to a lookup that resolves by that key. Enforce rules going forward. Mark status as required and restrict edits to the choice. Make location required with a lookup. No free text locations. Add a business rule. If status equals discontinued, then disallow stock quantity updates. Your spreadsheet can't do that. Dataverse can. Move math out of cells. Replace inventory value calculated in Excel with a formula or calculated column in Dataverse, where types are respected and casting is explicit. Spreadsheet math in a text field is how you end up summing strings. Microstory. A team used one state column for lifecycle plus supply chain notes. Active promo, active vendor late, discount. Their active inventory value report was off by 18% because half the active rows didn't equal active. They migrated split state into a choice status and a note column, backfilled with a mapping table, and suddenly procurement stopped over-ordering. Not because demand changed, because the data stopped lying. Practical migration steps. In Power Query, duplicate the overloaded column. One becomes the governed value, the other becomes raw notes. Use custom logic to pass out markers like parentheses, dashes, and commas to isolate the state token. In Dataverse, create status, choice, location, lookup, and notes, multi-line text. Add an alternate key on location, name, load locations first. Enable required fields and prevent blank values via business rules. Post, import, clean up, delete or hide the old free text columns. Do not leave escape hatches. Future you deserves less chaos. Everything clicked when I realized columns should carry one meaning. Choices capture state. Lookups capture identity. Notes capture narrative. Keep them separate and everything else. Validation, views, flows. Stop stripping over your clever consolidation. Failure pattern 5. Orphaned rows. Now for the cardinal sin, children without parents. In spreadsheets, you delete a supplier row and forget that 200 products still reference Acme tools by name. Nothing complains. Your pivot just silently excludes them or, worse, shows a new category called blank. In Dataverse, that's an orphan, products referencing a non-existent supplier. And unlike Excel, Dataverse has opinions about orphans, strong ones. Why this matters? Without enforced relationships, your data becomes fiction. Reports show totals that don't tie out, automations fire on products with no supplier and then fail downstream. Security rules that rely on hierarchies can't filter correctly because the parent is missing. Orphans are integrity errors wearing invisibility cloaks. They pass casual inspection and break under stress. The truth? Referential integrity isn't optional housekeeping, it's the foundation. If a child requires a parent to make sense, make the relationship required and define cascade behavior. You don't get credit for, we usually remember to create the supplier first. Systems enforce what people forget, what to model. Required lookups for essential relationships. Product must have a supplier, product must have a category. If the business truly allows unknown supplier, model a specific supplier row named unknown with a proper ID, not a null. Ambiguity gets one. Explicit placeholder, governed and auditable. Cascade behaviors. For delete, pick restrict if deleting a parent would be catastrophic. Pick cascade if deletion should remove all children, rare in transactional domains. For reparenting or name changes, cascade. All ensures the display name updates everywhere without creating text drift. Intersect tables for many-to-many. Don't fake multiple suppliers per product with comma-separated text. Create product supplier with 2 lookups, each required. That table becomes the relationship with its own audit and lifecycle. How to fix before you import. Preload parents. Import suppliers, locations, categories first. Activate alternate keys on the labels you'll resolve against. Validate distinctness aggressively, trim, normalize case, and strip punctuation. Reject duplicates instead of spawning. Supplier 2. Sequence your data flows. Children after parents. In the product data flow, map supplier by alternate key. If a supplier doesn't resolve, fail the row and log it. Do not auto-create parents from child text unless you enjoy polluted masters. Enforce at the schema. Mark the lookup as required in Dataverse so someone can't sneak a null through the form, the API, or a rogue import. Required means required everywhere. How to fix after the fact. Detect orphans with views. Create a view in products where supplier is blank. If you've made it required, you shouldn't see any. If you do, they came from legacy imports or a misconfigured integration. Fix the pipeline, then fix the data. Backfill orphans intentionally. Create or identify the correct parent rows, then update children to point to them. If unknown, link to the unknown parent and add a note explaining the provenance. Then assign an owner to resolve within an SLA. Lockdown deletion. Set delete behavior on parents to restrict, add a business rule or custom plugin to block deletion if active children exist, and provide a friendly error with a link to related records. Friendly meaning precise and smugly unambiguous. Microstory. Finance complained that supplier spend didn't match inventory value. Investigation found 9% of products had null suppliers from an old import. Reports grouped them under unassigned, which executives dutifully ignored. Required lookups, preload of suppliers, and restrict on delete eliminated orphans in one release cycle. The next quarter spent matched inventory, not because the business improved, because relationships existed. Concurrency twist. In Excel, two people fix the same parent concurrently and overwrite each other with no trace. In Dataverse, optimistic concurrency blocks stale updates and preserves integrity, unless you've left children dangling. Then you get a lot of retries and nonsense. Model required relationships and the platform's transaction scope gives you atomic sanity. Either the parent and children updates succeed together or nothing changes. Practical checklist. Parents first, always. Data flows ordered. Suppliers, locations, categories, then products. Alternate keys on parent labels to resolve lookups during import. Required lookups on critical child tables. No nulls. Use explicit unknown rows only if the business demands it, and report on them relentlessly until they go to zero. Delete behavior set to restrict on parents with active children. No casual amputation. Monitoring, scheduled view or Power BI alert for orphan candidates plus audit enabled on parent and intersect tables to trace who tried to create orphans and when. Everything clicked when I realized referential integrity is not nice to have, it's gravity. Ignore it and data floats off into space. Enforce required lookups, preload parents, configure cascades like an adult, and orphans stop existing, not by luck, by design. We're proving it. Excel versus Dataverse. Stress benchmarks. Let's stop theorizing and step on the gas. Row limits first. Excel gets sluggish past a few 100,000 rows. Formulas recalc like they're wading through syrup. Dataverse indexes columns, queries server-side, and streams results. The truth, 10 filters on a million rows is still a blink when the engine owns the index. Concurrency. Shared file on a network drive. One edit wins, the other user silently loses, and no one knows which. Dataverse uses optimistic concurrency and transactions. Two users save conflicting edits. The stale one is blocked with a version error. Annoying? Yes. Also how you avoid ghost edits, audit. Excel has last modified by whoever saved last. Dataverse has auditing and change tracking. Who, what, when, before, after. You can replay history or drive delta loads. Compare that to manual versioning with Final V7 real XLS's painful security. Everyone on the share is not a model. It's a shrug. Dataverse offers role-based and field-level security. A junior user can see price but not margin. Your spreadsheet cannot keep a secret. Don't pretend it can. API throughput. Copy-paste is not an integration strategy. Dataverse has data flows, APIs, Power Automate, and bulk operations. You move thousands of rows predictably, idempotently, and on schedule. Reliability beats heroics. Referential integrity. VLOOKUP illusions fracture under rename, resort, or oops, I deleted the tab. Dataverse enforces relationships and cascades. Parents first, children follow, rules applied. It's civilization, not chaos. Minimal remediation path. The fix that sticks. Here's the fix you actually follow tomorrow. Step 1. Model core entities. Products, suppliers, locations, categories. One table per concept, no catch-alls. Step 2. Keys. Keep Dataverse's GUID primary. Add alternate keys on supplier. Name, location, name, category, .code, product, .code. Step 3. Normalize. Choice for status. Lookup for supplier, location, category. Split any multipurpose columns. Step 4. Type discipline. Whole number for counts, decimal for measurements, currency for money, date only for dates, boolean for binary facts. Step 5. Pre-process with Power Query. Trim uppercase keys, collapse whitespace, dedupe on alternate keys, reject ambiguous rows. Map yes-no variants to true-false ones. Step 6. Import order. Parents first. Activate alternate keys. Then products mapping text to lookups by those keys. First load x append. Updates upsert only with clean keys. Step 7. Integrity enforcement. Make lookups required. Configure delete equals restrict on parents. Add business rules for lifecycle constraints. Step 8. Computation policy. Move math to calculated formula columns. Cast currency to decimal where needed. No spreadsheet math in text. Step 9. Governance. Roles, field security for sensitive columns, DLP policies, auditing on parents and intersects, manage environment, optional IP firewall. Step 10. Iterate. Build validation views for orphans and duplicates. Schedule delta loads, monitor failures, fix pipelines, not just records. Do this and your imports stop gambling. Your app stops lying. Your data grows up. Power Apps doesn't fix spreadsheet thinking. Clear data modeling does. Keys, types, and relationships turn chaos into a system. If this finally snapped things into focus, do the efficient thing. Lock in your upgrade path, subscribe, turn on alerts, and let the next episode deploy automatically. We're diving into Dataverse governance next. Managed environments, role field security, auditing, DLP, the IP firewall, and why citizen developer shouldn't mean unmanaged risk. Press follow, enable notifications, and convert curiosity into a reliable signal. Entropy wins unless you choose structure. Choose it.